Hi. Today I'm going to present to you shortly Helsinki Biennial, and then more in detail I'm going to go through the environmental work that we have been doing. To start with, Helsinki Biennial is a contemporary art event which takes place on Kivisaari Island, which is located in the Helsinki archipelago. And the first ever Helsinki Biennial was held last summer from mid-June until late September. So for an event, it's quite a long time. And the Biennial presented 41 artists and artist groups. And most of these artworks, 38 of them, were located on the island. During the summer, 150,000 visitors visited Kivisaari Island. It is also good to note that Helsinki Biennial is part of Helsinki Art Museum, and therefore it is also part of the Helsinki City organization. This means that the Biennial needs to be in line with the city set environmental guidelines as well. Responsibility and maintaining nature's ecological sustainability are key values of Helsinki Biennial. So, environmental matters have been given special consideration from the outset. Some central environmental aspects for the Biennial was to manage our environmental matters through an environmental management system called Kultuurikompass. And during the Biennial, we estimated our CO2 footprint, actually through 2 CO2 calculators, to track down our biggest emission sources, which was travel and logistics, as well as material purchases. Helsinki Biennial set 7 major goals for the first ever Helsinki Biennial. Each goal had also 1 or more measures that help to reach each goal. You may take a picture of these goals if you wish to look at them more carefully. But most of these measures were fulfilled. Some were discarded even before the event, and some were achieved partly. And some goals even arch to the future biennials. We noticed quickly that it is quite difficult or nearly impossible to come up with measuring standards, at least for now, that would provide us data that would be comparable. We still thought that it would be important for us to collect data so that we can kind of find a baseline for our work. Since this was the first time arranging, we had no idea what type of impact creating a biennial, producing a biennial would mean. Next, I am going to present a few examples on how we measured things. As for calculations, we collected data for our CO2 calculator. And this we did, for example, for the travel, so that I simply sent out a survey once a month, 2 times a month, to our staff members and asked them, where did you travel? With what did you travel? Who traveled with you? Or if they were traveling or sending stuff, then I asked how much did that weigh? And all this was collected to a huge Excel. Another thing that we also used was that every site that art piece was located on the island was inspected by a conservation biologist. And based on the feedback we got, it set ground rules for each piece. I am going to give examples of both the artworks as well as day-to-day actions that influenced our staff during the summer. So in this photograph, you see a work by Alicia Quade, and it's called Parspartoto. And it is actually one of the few pieces that was delivered to Helsinki from abroad. But the piece was never delivered back. So the piece was bought by the art museum, and it was relocated in the city of Helsinki as public art, thus lengthening its lifespan and therefore also minimizing its environmental impact. Here we see Jaakko Niemelä's Key 6, and it was quite a conversation starter. The red deck indicates the sea level if Greenland was to melt. And it's a good reminder that art has the power to bring people together and discuss things even if the matters would be difficult. The deck returned to the artist and the scaffoldings were returned to the firm that lended them for or rented them for us. So no material was left behind. And here we see Tadashi Kawamata's piece called Vallisaari Lighthouse. The idea the artist had was to use only wood which would be found on the island. But due to safety requirements and cultural heritage, the piece needed also new raw materials. This is a good example how sometimes sustainability dimensions are in contradiction with each other. This is the Helsinki Biennial shop, which was decorated mainly with recycled materials from the art museum, and some materials like the rocks and the sticks in front of the shop were found from the island. Lastly, the staff equipment also was mainly rented or recycled. For example, the microwaves, the refrigerators, and bicycles and so forth. We hunted down where we could find leftovers or the city was giving them up. In addition, none of the staff clothing had any years printed on them. This way we could use the clothing again in the upcoming biennials. So, the first biennial turned out to be a true learning experience for us. And the impact study we did to analyze the socio-cultural and the environmental impacts, as well as tourist appeal and maritime characteristics of the first biennial, can be used as a good tool when designing the next. And if you're interested in this, the whole study is found also in English online, and it's all available for you. In the near future, we want to take actions to reduce the negative impacts which were highlighted in the impact analysis, including, for example, the travel emissions. In addition, we want to enlarge our idea of responsibility, also reaching to social, for example, social responsibility. This could mean, for example, enhancing accessibility. It could be more digital art or more art on the mainland, which is, of course, more accessible by nature compared to Vallisaari, which is a natural state island. Lastly, I would like to present a question and do a quick survey for you. So, I ask you to stand up if your organization that you represent has already an environmental program, and if you can raise both of your hands up if after today you are thinking of building one. So, quite many are thinking of building one, and quite many already have one. That's great. Thank you so much. Thanks.